So regarding those, if anybody not feel comfortable with doing a valve job, like I mentioned, maybe a question through that process?
The gasket,
Yes.
I mean, how often can you take it off and put it back on?
You know what, that's a great question. I would tell you 47 thousandths is the minimum. And I would tell you that you could probably use it, take it off, put it back on, you can probably get away with it twice, I would think.
Because it smashes?
It does, it does. And you know, every once in a while I'll run across and I'll measure it, and the thing will be 45,000, some guys are less. People try to put them in presses and smash them to gain 2,000ths. Like the craziest thing in the whole world to me, where there's so much more performance in a chassis, but I'm going to roll the dice with my son's integrity on the track. So one of those crazy things, but you can get away with it. You can get away with it probably a couple times. Anytime that we do an inspection, I'm giving you a if I take your cylinder head off, I'm giving you a brand new gasket and trying to put it back together for you and thanking you for your patience. We want to make sure that that's not your expense, unless you're found less than compliant, and then you're probably going to have to buy your own. Not you, but somebody else. I'm sorry.
What's the gasket made out of? Is it multi-layer steel or?
It's a comedic gasket. Careful with these gaskets too. There is something that Briggs uses for their crazy high compression stuff, racing engine. It's called a fire ring gasket. And your World Formulas ran them and other things. If somebody says, you can gain X amount with this, run the other way, because it will be found, it's obvious. A race up in Canada. Here's a kid 12 years old. I'm taking this thing apart, and the tuner from England is standing next to me, and the first thing I see is this fire ring gasket. It shouldn't be there. It's up in Toronto, and I say, hey Dale, come here for a minute. And he looks at this and he says, what does that mean? I don't know, I don't speak this language. I said, you're not supposed to have it. He said, is this illegal? I said, it is. And so his first place driver lost because an engine builder tried to pull a quick one. He says, can I have that gasket? I said, let me take a picture and I'll give it to you. He called his engine builder over and said, come here for a minute. He threw it at him, he bedded it in the side of his face to make sure that he wasn't going to do it again. You know what? It's crazy what you see sometimes, but it's not worth the roll of the dice playing in this trip. So let's all do it the right way for sure. Again, lapping, coarse compound or a rough compound. You can use different kinds. What I would tell you, exhaust, you might go with coarse initially, but the intake should just be a quick hit, guys. Maybe 10 or 15 seconds of popping that against the seat in the valve, and you're probably going to have that as good as it can be. Clean it all up, can't have any of that junk back in the engine, but before you put it together, or after you put it together, test it, just to make sure that you're good. There's a gasket underneath here as well, that there's a measurement on that. You shouldn't have to mess with it, guys. You can clean it up a little bit, but do me a favor, don't scrape the surfaces, because the surface is a tech item. You can, with any of that gasket material, I can use my finger and scrape it away, or a cloth that'll scrape it away, or maybe some brake cleaner or something like that. Don't use something more messy. Solvent, absolutely, yeah. Just as long as we're not defacing the finish, because if it doesn't match what I'm passing around now, it's problematic. It has to be that finish. So, but again, a really simple thing. Again, we talked about shortening learning curves. So far, to recap, carburetor, there's probably 0.75% in that, maybe a little bit more by playing with that. Cylinder head seating in terms of valves, that's huge. That's huge. The valve lash, again, you guys are going to be 2 or 3% or more. And again, when we're splitting hairs, that's a lot when you're splitting hairs. All we're hoping to do is that we don't want to get outmotored by somebody else. We don't want to. We want to have what everybody else has. Now let's go play. And that's what we're trying to create. What you'll find is when you start matching gears together that run the cam off of the crankshaft, when you start talking about valve train and everything else, you're going to see some slight variations. So somebody might have a little bit, maybe their cam degrees, and we degree these things out from time to time, they might degree out at 106.5 on the intake side center line. But somebody else might be 106 even. So what that tells me is that one person's going to have a little bit more bottom end, and some's going to have a little bit more top end. But it's the torque curve. And are they varying enough to even be measurable with the clock? No, because in some places you're going to be a little faster, and somebody else is going to be faster, but it's all the same. It just doesn't vary that much. Briggs, to give you an idea how they're building these guys, every block is measured, every crankshaft throw is measured, every connecting rod is measured, from the center line of the piston pin to the top of the piston is measured. And so when they put these together, they want to know where they are. Every cam is measured, carburetor is measured. So when they put them together, it's like a recipe. So I know that I'm going to be about 1/1000th out or maybe 1,000th in terms of the pop out thing. If somebody says deck it, the rule says 5/1000ths and they say deck it, bad idea. Bad idea. Run from those people because it will be found and it's not a good thing. And who knows where the rules might be changing for 2019. That has yet to be released, but decking is something that's under the magnifying glass. So it's a series of quarter percents. It's simple adjustments, and ultimately, at the end of the day, it's performance and repeatability. There's one last thing that I want to share with you guys. What we'll do. On my feet too long. What I use is a little tool, and this little tool is just a positive piston stop, but I've adjusted it to know exactly where the ignition timing is going to be. So when I roll this thing over, I have a pretty good idea where there's two magnets on the flywheel on where they're going to hit. So ignition timing. How much does ignition timing help? If we were spinning at 8,800, it probably helped me more to throw as much advance as I could. If I was only going to rev 4,000, I'd probably want to take away some of that advance. But it's somewhere in the middle. These things come from the factory about 24.5 to 25 degrees in terms of ignition timing. PVL system has a built-in unit that will advance at about 4,000ths as well. So what we're doing here, guys, is this positive stop. When I put it in, I can look down inside, I can see where the magnet is, and I know if somebody has played with the keyway or the grooves in the crankshaft or the grooves in the flywheel. What you can do, if you're so inclined, if you want to take this ignition module, in the junior classes, a little bit more ignition timing is your friend. So, how can I do that? What I can do is I can take this, two screws here, or two bolts I should say, loosen those up, drop it down. Since this thing is rotating clockwise, if I move this counterclockwise, it's going to meet up with those magnets a fraction sooner. And so if I take this 15/16 bolt off and loosen that up and try to rock that any way that I can, that's going to maybe help me a little bit too. But anything more than that, guys, what you're trying to do is you're getting as close to 25.5 to 26 degrees, as good as you can be. I'll use a degree wheel to make sure that it's right. It's a lesser issue. That's why I saved it for last. It's really not that big a gain. The biggest gain you're going to have is in carburation with fuel delivery, with sealing the cylinder head, with valve lash, lining up the components. You can play with this if you want, but I just don't think it's that. It's not measurable unless we're revving a lot higher RPM. So as far as the mounting of the pipe, I think, RJ, do you have that new pipe in yet or no?
Is that not it? It should be.
I don't know, it might be.
That's it.
Is this it?
About 5530.
Okay, so guys, recognizing that other unit that we've been using in Sprint asphalt was hitting a lot of people's brake calipers, I think. That was boiling brake fluid. That's not a cool thing. So what we did is we went to RLV and said, let's make a change. They're supposed to be sending me some. After we left, I called them up and asked them to send me 3 or 4 pipes. What I would tell you is you can use a copper gasket around that. Use high heat cylinder. on the bolts, drill them and safety wire them, have one pull against the other. It's gonna be idiot proof. It's gonna be simple.
We can stud the exhaust stuff and just not.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes you can. And you can stud the support down on the cylinder head as well. But that one is a simple one to do, absolutely. One of the things that I will tell you, the mufflers. I don't know. There were some people that decided at the Kyle Larson race that they wanted to take a 1/2-inch drill bit and put 4 or 5 holes in that. I think you guys got some sales on that after it was discovered. We don't want to play. I don't want to play gotcha for anybody that's in racing. That's why I'm going to do my best to look everything I can over in advance, so you guys can fix it if it's not compliant. And if it's not performance, pipes, safety, let's wrap them, get the stuff, make sure that your little person doesn't burn themselves or you don't burn yourself. But leave everything else pretty much alone, being a box stock setup. Let's make this about a whole bunch of fun and not about, I think the Subaru's got turned into a little bit of a runaway train with trying to control that. And what we're trying to do is give you guys a platform and then support it so you don't have to worry about the runaway train thing. That's going to be my commitment to the program. I can't be here for every race, but I'll do my best to make all that I can. There we go. I'm sorry. Yes, you had a question too.
Are we going to stick with the clutch that we've been running, or?
I know Lowell approached that. He wants to go to the drum clutch for 2019. I know Ali is still kicking it around at this point.
I think for this season, he's going to stick with the clutch release he's
Yeah,
had.
correct. Yeah, for this season, yes.
And he may change that in next season.
Right.
But he won't do that for this season.
Yeah, this season I think it's that here's one of the things one of the reasons why that's a focal point. What's that?
Cheaper one? That doesn't sound right.
Well, less expensive. Well, let me tell you what happened there. There's a group that's off on the East Coast, exotic metals. And so what they decided to do, let me go down the road of exotic metals, and we're gonna make this, and it was an $1,800 clutch. Worked a little bit better, but when the clutch costs you 4 times more than the engine, you might want to have a conversation about the rule book. And that's the cool thing about what Briggs is doing. He's trying to control costs, because otherwise racing is a runaway train, and that's where we're coming from anyway. And that's my support to say, how do we keep this affordable? Let's talk about fuel delivery. You guys can run gravity feed. You can run a pulse pump here off of the side cover. You cannot take the plugs out and vent the engine. Okay? So if I turn these around, I saw somebody, somebody wanted to take that off and put a 1/2-inch hose out of the top of it. Can't do that because we're dissipating pressure in the crankcase, and everybody else that is supposed to have it in there is not. So again, it sounds stupid. I hated it, and Briggs hated it, that they had to put their logo on a spark plug. The reason being, and the washer was there, the reason being is guys were machining those things all the way down, trying to get as deep in the holes they could, or going with the what is the AC Autolite 3910R, and it's just a big chunk of steel. It's going to go another 1/4 inch in, and it's going to give you more compression. And now what happens is everybody starts chasing the same thing. So he hated the idea, he had to do it, but in the spirit of fairness and spirit of competition, what we're trying to do is make it a level playing field.